Florida, the Sunshine State, conjures images of pristine white sand beaches, glittering luxury high-rises, and extravagant million-dollar vacations. It's a land of postcard-perfect palm trees swaying in the breeze, turquoise waves lapping it, the shore, and a lifestyle that screams glamour and leisure. Tourists flock here to bask in the glow of Miami's nightlife, Orlando's theme park magic, and the serene beauty of the Florida Keys. But peel back the glossy veneer, step beyond the curated Instagram feeds and travel brochures, and you'll uncover a starkly different reality, a hidden world of pain, struggle, and despair that never makes it into the state's shiny press releases. This is the untold story of Florida's homelessness crisis, a tragedy brewing in the shadows of its opulent facade. Today, we're diving deep into the raw, unfiltered truth about life on the streets, where survival is a daily battle and hope is a luxury few can afford. If this journey into the heart of America's forgotten corners resonates with you, please hit that subscribe button and become part of our growing community. In 2023, Florida recorded 89 people experiencing homelessness, a staggering figure that reflects the scale of human suffering unfolding across the state. By 2024, that number had climbed to 31,362, a troubling increase that signals an escalating crisis. Over 31,000 men, women, and children are trapped in a relentless cycle of instability, waking up each day to fight for basic survival. They're not just statistics, they're human beings with stories, dreams, and fears, forced to navigate a world that seems to have turned its back on them. Yet, despite the mounting evidence, official narratives often spin these shifts as progress, cherry-picking data to paint a rosier picture. But the reality on the ground tells a far darker story. Shelter availability, a lifeline for those without a home, has plummeted. Over the past year, access to temporary beds has shrunk by more than 5%, leaving countless individuals with nowhere to turn. At the same time, the number of unsheltered people, those forced to sleep on sidewalks, under bridges, or in makeshift encampments, has surged by nearly 10%. These aren't random blips on a radar, they're the direct consequences of deliberate policy choices. Instead of tackling the root causes of homelessness, Florida's leaders have prioritized sweeping the issue under the rug, crafting solutions that prioritize optics over human lives. The result? A growing population of people left to fend for themselves in a state that prides itself on prosperity. Florida's nickname, the Sunshine State, feels like a cruel irony for those who can't afford to keep up with its skyrocketing cost of living. Homelessness in America isn't the caricature some imagine, a choice made by people too lazy to pull themselves up. It's a brutal reality born from systemic failures, sudden rent hikes that swallow entire paychecks, wages that haven't budged in years, unexpected medical emergencies that drain savings, or the desperate flight from domestic violence with no safe place to land. It's what happens when vulnerability is punished instead of supported, when the safety net is so full of holes it might as well not exist. This crisis didn't spring up overnight. It's the product of decades of neglect, a slow-motion disaster, fueled by inadequate housing policies, underfunded mental health services, and a naive belief that private charities could fill the gaps left by disengaged governments. Today, Florida faces not just a statistical problem, but a moral reckoning. Lives are being shattered by policies that criminalize sleeping in public spaces, while offering no viable alternatives. Press conferences and political soundbites gloss over the ugly truth, touting superficial fixes that do nothing to address the deeper issues. The question looms large. How much worse must this crisis get before empty promises give way to real action? How many more people must endure the indignity of sleeping on Florida's streets before we admit the system is broken and commit to fixing it? The state doesn't need more rhetoric, it needs results. Florida's approach to social welfare is less a safety net and more a tightrope, frayed and ready to snap. In a state that wears limited government like a badge of honor and celebrates rugged individualism, the message to those who stumble is clear. Don't expect a hand to lift you up. There's no soft landing here, only the cold, hard concrete of reality. in 2024, Governor Ron DeSantis signed HB 1365 into law, a measure billed as a way to restore public order by banning sleeping, resting, or camping in public spaces like parks, sidewalks, and even Florida's iconic beaches. But let's call it what it is, a crackdown on the homeless, cloaked in the language of public safety. This isn't about protecting communities. It's about punishing poverty. HB 1365 doesn't just criminalize homelessness, it turns it into a legal weapon. The law allows private citizens and business owners to sue local governments that fail to enforce the ban, transforming poverty into a liability that cities are desperate to erase. For those living on the streets, the impact is devastating. 1. Man's voice echoes the exhaustion and frustration of many. The cops give us no rest. We can't even sleep in the park anymore because it's against the health department to camp. We sleep here, we get ticketed. One night, I couldn't even get a full hour of sleep. Cops kept waking me up, telling me to move from place to place. I'd lay down, get woken up an hour later, move again. I ended up with 5 tickets, I think. His words capture the relentless harassment faced by those with nowhere to go. A cycle of displacement that offers no rest, no dignity, and no way out. Worse still, HB 1365 mandates that local governments provide alternative encampments or shelters, but offers no meaningful support to make it happen. There's no funding, no infrastructure, no clear plan, just a directive that leaves cash-strapped municipalities scrambling. Some counties might cobble together makeshift tent zones, while others lean on already overwhelmed nonprofits or simply push people out of sight. The result is a patchwork of inconsistent responses, with vulnerable individuals forced deeper into the margins onto riverbanks, into wooded areas, or abandoned lots far from help, safety, or visibility. This isn't a solution, it's a sleight of hand, designed to erase homelessness from public view without addressing its causes. It's governance by illusion, negligence dressed up as decisive action. Homelessness isn't just a personal tragedy, it's a public emergency that sends shockwaves through every corner of society. When people lack stable housing, the consequences ripple outward, straining communities and exposing the cracks in our systems. Hospitals buckle under the weight of preventable health issues that could have been avoided with basic shelter and hygiene. Law enforcement, stretched thin, becomes the default responder to crises rooted in poverty, mental illness, or addiction, diverting resources from more pressing needs. Neighborhoods grow tense, divided by fear and frustration as compassion gives way to resentment. This isn't a hypothetical scenario, it's the lived reality in cities and towns across Florida, from Miami's bustling streets to the quiet suburbs of the Panhandle. What's rarely said aloud is the hard truth: criminalizing homelessness costs more than solving it. Decades of research bear this out. Arrests, emergency room visits, jail time, court proceedings, and the constant displacement of encampments add up not just in dollars but in social decay. The price tag for policing poverty is staggering, yet Florida continues to pour millions into these temporary fixes, enforcing anti-camping laws and shuffling people from one corner of the city to another. It's a treadmill of futility, satisfying political talking points but doing nothing to address the root causes. In contrast, permanent supportive housing, particularly programs based on the Housing First model, delivers better outcomes for less money. These initiatives provide stable homes and wraparound services, breaking the cycle of homelessness, yet the state clings to its failed approach, prioritizing optics over solutions. Imagine a different path. What if Florida redirected those millions into real housing, comprehensive mental health treatment, and proactive prevention? What if the funds spent on arrests and evictions were invested in transitional housing, job training, or rental assistance? Programs that actually lift people out of homelessness? These aren't pipe dreams, they're proven strategies that work when given the chance. The question is whether Florida's leaders have the will to prioritize people over politics, solutions, over sound bites. It's time to stop treating homelessness like a nuisance to be hidden and start addressing it as a policy failure that can be fixed. The crisis isn't evenly distributed. It hits hardest in Florida's most prosperous regions. A bitter irony that underscores the state's deep inequalities. Miami-Dade County leads the pack, with over 1,100 homeless individuals as of 2024. Here, gleaming luxury condos cast long shadows over encampments tucked beneath highway overpasses, a stark reminder of the chasm between wealth and want. In a city synonymous with billion-dollar real estate, thousands sleep on concrete, their existence a silent rebuke to the myth of universal prosperity. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, what kind of success tolerates this level of disparity? In Orange County, home to Orlando's Disney World and its endless stream of tourists, nearly 3,000 people are unhoused. While families snap photos with Mickey Mouse, others huddle in the shadows. Priced out of a market where hotel rooms sit vacant and private rentals soar beyond reach. Hillsborough, Broward, and Palm Beach counties follow close behind, each grappling with a crisis that's both statewide and growing. Housing costs have skyrocketed. Wages have stagnated, and the state's response? More rules about where people can't sleep, with precious little effort to help them find a place to live. This disaster didn't erupt out of nowhere. It's been decades in the making. A slow-burning tragedy fueled by political complacency and an unshakable faith in the free market. While developers churn out luxury condos and vacation rentals, the supply of affordable housing has dwindled to a trickle. Across Florida, there are just 30 for affordable and available rental units. For every 100 extremely low-income households, that means nearly 2/3 of the people who need affordable housing the most are left stranded, forced to compete for scraps or make impossible choices, pay rent or buy groceries, fix the car or cover medical bills. For many, the result is a slide into homelessness, onto couches, into cars, or out onto the streets. The rental market has turned predatory. In cities like Miami, Tampa, and Orlando, rents have surged at a punishing pace, far outstripping wage growth. Entire working-class communities are being pushed out of neighborhoods they've called home for generations. Even those with steady jobs are teetering on the edge. One unexpected expense away from disaster. A car repair, a medical bill, a missed paycheck, that's all it takes to tip the scales from survival to homelessness. And for low-income families, there's no margin for error, no savings to fall back on. Florida's unique challenges compound the problem. Natural disasters, hurricanes, floods, and violent storms strike with relentless frequency, wiping out already precarious housing for families living on the edge. After Hurricane Ian tore through the state, the spike in homelessness was immediate and brutal. Entire communities were reduced to rubble, and the long-term recovery plans that should have followed were either inadequate or non-existent. Thousands were left to rebuild their lives alone, with no safety net to catch them. Then there's the health crisis, a silent epidemic that Florida's policies have largely ignored. Nearly 30% of the state's homeless population struggles with serious mental health disorders or substance addiction. But instead of treatment, they face tickets, arrests, or dismissal as public nuisances. There's no real support system, just a revolving door between the streets, emergency rooms, and jails. This is the deeper truth behind homelessness in America. It's not just about tents on sidewalks or tarps under overpasses. It's about systemic neglect, policies that prioritize developers over communities, punishment over healing, and short-term image over long-term impact. Every person living unsheltered in Florida today is a living testament to decisions made or avoided by those in power. Without change, the numbers will only climb. Florida's lawmakers love to talk tough about cleaning up the streets. In 2024, they doubled down with HB 1365, a law that bans public camping and empowers private citizens to sue cities that don't enforce it. Sold as a way to restore order, it's little more than a cudgel aimed at the most vulnerable. Cities and counties are left to comply with no support, no funding, no blueprint. Just a mandate that stretches already thin resources. Officials in Miami-Dade and Orange County have raised alarms, warning that there simply aren't enough shelter beds to meet the law's demands. And even if more shelters are built, they're not a long-term fix. Shelters are a band-aid. What Florida needs is permanent, affordable housing and policies that prevent people from falling into homelessness in the first place. The current approach is like mopping up a flood with a paper towel. It doesn't stop the leak. It just pushes the water somewhere else. If Florida is serious about tackling homelessness, it needs to stop nibbling around the edges and strike at the root. That means housing not more high-end condos or vacation rentals snatched up by wealthy investors, but affordable, stable homes for the everyday people who keep this state running. It starts with massive investments in deeply affordable housing, units priced not just below market, but truly accessible to those earning the least. Rental assistance and robust eviction prevention programs are critical to keep families from slipping through the cracks. Mental health and substance abuse services must be expanded and made easier to access alongside job training, legal aid, and housing support for those rebuilding after loss. But perhaps the most urgent task is rewriting the narrative. Homelessness isn't about bad choices or broken people, it's about broken systems. We know what works. Housing First programs, which provide homes without preconditions and follow up with support services, have slashed chronic homelessness by up to 80% in some cities. They're more compassionate, more effective and cheaper in the long run. But they require leadership and vision, qualities Florida's leaders have shown little interest in. The state's current path, punitive laws and half measures only deepens the crisis. This isn't just Florida's problem, it's a national crisis. And we can't keep waiting for politicians to act. Real change has always come from the ground up, driven by ordinary people who refuse to turn away. That's where you come in. Support local organizations doing the hard, often thankless work of helping those in need. Speak out for affordable housing in your community and challenge policies and rhetoric that scapegoat the homeless, whether it's volunteering, donating, or simply saying, "This isn't right, your voice matters." Silence isn't neutral, it's a choice. When we stay quiet, we let suffering go unnoticed. But when we speak up, we give those on the margins a chance to be seen, heard, and treated with the dignity they deserve. Florida is a state bathed in sunlight. But what good is that warmth if it only reaches the fortunate few? Homelessness isn't inevitable, it's the result of choices about funding, priorities, and who gets to belong. If this story stirred something in you, anger, sadness, frustration, or simply awareness, don't let it fade. Leave a comment below, share this video, and subscribe to Daily Homeless News. This isn't just content, it's a call to action. Let's remind the world that the homeless in America crisis is one we can no longer ignore.